You know, sometimes life feels like a long road at night, quiet, uncertain, a little strange, but also kind of beautiful. And on that road, we're all walking towards something or someone we care about. And today, I want to talk about that journey, about love, not the dramatic movie kind, but the real kind, the kind that grows slowly, the kind that whispers, not shouts, the kind that says, I'm not perfect, but I'm trying, and I'm on my way to you, because every step we take, every challenge, every moment of doubt, every tiny victory brings us closer to the person we want to be, and closer to the person we love. And maybe that journey is the point. Maybe the road itself is a quiet promise that says, you're getting there, keep going. So let's talk about that road. Let's talk about love, and let's talk about what it means to be on the way, heart open, spirit steady, and hope alive. I'm on the way to you, and maybe that's the simplest truth I've come to understand, not through grand gestures or dramatic revelations, but through quiet moments, the kind that slip between breaths and stay with you long after the world goes silent. There's a certain peace in knowing that every step I take is guided by something softer than certainty, something deeper than desire. It's guided by the quiet pull of you, the gravity of your presence, even from far away. And I guess that's what I want to talk about. Not the destination, not the moment I finally arrive, but the path itself. The slow, steady walk towards someone who feels like home, even when you haven't opened the door yet. Sometimes the road feels empty, and sometimes it feels endless. Sometimes I don't know if I'm moving fast enough or strong enough or bravely enough, but I keep walking. I keep choosing the direction where your light feels like it's coming from. And there's something beautiful about that, something grounding, because love isn't always loud, it isn't always certain, it isn't always marked by fireworks or music swelling at the perfect moment. Sometimes it's just a whisper that says, don't stop. You're getting closer. And every time I hear that whisper, something inside me softens. Something inside me understands that the journey itself is shaping me into the person who will stand in front of you someday, steady, open, and real. I've learned that love is not a rush. It's not a race to be won. It's the slow becoming of a person who can truly meet another heart. And becoming takes time. It takes the kinds of days where nothing happens except a small shift inside you, a shift you don't even notice until later. But all these tiny shifts add up. They move us, shape us, guide us. And maybe that's the quiet magic in all of this. I'm not just walking toward you, I'm growing toward you. I'm becoming someone who can hold your hand honestly, who can stand beside you fully, who can meet you with a heart that has been softened, strengthened, and shaped by the journey itself. There are moments when I picture you without meaning to. Not in a dramatic way, not like a scene from a movie, but in a very human way. The sound of your laugh in a space I haven't seen yet. The way you might tilt your head when you're trying to understand something deeply. The kind of silence you carry, whether it's calm or thoughtful or a little bit shy. It's strange, but the more I walk, the more I realize that love isn't just about reaching someone. It's about learning to see them even before you arrive. Not imagining perfection, but sensing authenticity. Sensing the warmth in someone's eyes, the truth in their smile, the softness in their breathing when the world finally lets them rest. And I think that's why this journey matters, because every mile teaches me how to recognize the real you when you finally open that door. There are days when the road feels heavy, when doubts rise like fog and cover everything. Days when it feels easier to stand still than to keep moving. But even on those days, something inside me keeps choosing forward. Maybe it's hope. Maybe it's longing. Maybe it's something I can't name yet, but there's a pull, a quiet certainty beneath all the uncertainty, a feeling deeper than fear. It doesn't shout. It doesn't demand. It simply says, you're meant to continue, and somehow that's enough. Enough to take one more step. Enough to trust that even the slowest progress still moves me closer to you. I think love changes the way we move through the world. It makes us softer without making us weak. It makes us braver without making us reckless. It teaches us that vulnerability is not a flaw but a doorway. And maybe that's the part of the journey I'm most grateful for. I'm learning how to open, how to speak honestly, how to feel deeply without being afraid of the depth. I'm learning that love isn't about holding on tightly, but about holding gently. It's about letting someone breathe while standing close enough to feel their presence. It's about offering your heart without trying to force someone else to carry it. And learning that takes time. It takes the journey. It takes every step I've taken toward you, even the messy ones, even the slow ones, even the ones that hurt. Sometimes I wonder what you're doing right now. Not in an obsessive way, not in a way that tries to control the story, but simply in a human way. Are you laughing somewhere? Are you sitting quietly? Are you searching for something too? Are you wondering if someone out there is walking your way, even if you don't know their name yet? Because I want you to know this, you're not alone in that wondering. Every step I take, every moment I breathe, there's a quiet awareness inside me that someone out there is the reason my heart keeps choosing forward. Not out of desperation, not out of loneliness, but out of a genuine pull toward connection, toward truth, toward the kind of love that isn't rushed or forced or decorated with illusions, the kind of love that's simply true. I am on the way to you, and that means I'm learning patience, the kind of patience that doesn't feel like waiting, but like preparing. I'm learning how to sit with my own thoughts without running from them, how to heal old wounds without expecting you to fix them someday, how to build a life that's full, meaningful, and steady. So when our paths finally cross, I'm not offering you a half-built version of myself. I'm offering something whole, something grounded, something real, and I think that's what love deserves. Two whole people choosing to walk together, not because they're incomplete alone, but because something about their paths aligns in a way that feels honest and inevitable. There are times when the journey feels strangely peaceful, when I look around and realize that even without knowing when I'll meet you or how or where, there's a comfort in simply moving toward the possibility. A comfort in knowing that love, real love, doesn't need to be chased, it needs to be met, and the best way to meet it is to grow into the person who can truly receive it. That's what I'm doing with every step. I'm not hurrying, I'm not demanding, I'm simply becoming. And in that becoming, I feel closer to you than distance can measure. I find myself appreciating the small things more than ever. The way sunlight falls across the floor in the morning, the smell of rain on quiet streets, the sound of someone's gentle laughter in a cafe. These moments remind me that love is carried in the simplest places, in the details, in the pauses, in the spaces between words. And the more I notice them, the more I understand that when I finally stand in front of you, it won't be the dramatic things to matter most. It will be the soft things, the quiet things, the moments when our breathing finds the same rhythm, or when your hand fits into mine without effort, or when we share a silence that feels safer than any conversation ever could. I am on the way to you, and with each step I feel myself growing steadier, not perfect, not flawless, just real. And maybe that's all love ever needed from us, not perfection, but presence. Not a grand entrance, but an honest arrival. Not a perfect story, but two hearts willing to write something true, even if the pages are messy, even if the sentences aren't always smooth. Because the value isn't in the perfection. The value is in the effort, the willingness, the journey. And I'm willing, I'm walking, I'm learning, I'm growing, I'm moving toward you in every way that matters. If you want, I can continue this speech further, expand it even more, or craft a second keynote into a full speech as well. Love moves us even when we feel lost, and maybe that's one of the quietest truths about the human heart. It's easy to believe that being lost is a failure, that wandering without direction is somehow a weakness, but love has a way of turning the very state of uncertainty into a guide, even when the road twists unexpectedly, even when the paths we thought we knew vanish beneath our feet. Love persists, gently, patiently, quietly pointing towards something greater than the confusion we carry. It doesn't shout, it doesn't demand. It simply exists, like the pulse in our chest, like the rhythm of our breathing, like a subtle current beneath the waves, moving us forward without forcing our steps, without dictating our pace, without asking us to understand it fully. And the truth is, when we allow ourselves to follow that current, even when the horizon is hazy and the night feels long, we discover that love is not just a destination but a companion, a light, a subtle music that moves us through the darkness in ways we cannot always describe. I have felt that kind of love before, not in grand declarations or sweeping gestures, but in the quiet moments when life seemed uncertain and I wondered if I could keep moving at all. I realized then that love is not a safety net, not a promise that everything will make sense, but a presence that gives meaning to the wandering itself. When we feel lost, our hearts sometimes ache with longing, with desire, with the quiet fear that we are too far from where we need to be. But love doesn't demand that we have clarity before it guides us. It doesn't wait for perfection or certainty or the neat alignment of all our thoughts. It meets us exactly where we are. It meets us in the chaos, in the confusion, in the silence of doubt. And it says something simple: keep moving, keep feeling, keep opening, keep being. And in that, even the lost moments become sacred, because they are filled with the quiet, invisible work of love, shaping us, bending us, softening us, strengthening us in ways that are not always obvious in the moment. Sometimes being lost is the very thing that teaches us how to love more deeply, more honestly, more fully. When the path disappears under our feet, when our plans unravel, when we face the uncertainty of tomorrow with only our hearts as our compass, love becomes both a teacher and a guide. It whispers lessons about patience, about presence, about surrendering control while holding firm to intention. It reminds us that the moments we feel most lost are also the moments where we are most alive, most open, most capable of seeing beauty, most capable of reaching someone else with empathy and authenticity. And perhaps the greatest irony is that being lost is not the opposite of love. It is the doorway to it. It is in the uncertainty that we learn to trust not just others, but ourselves, our instincts, our capacity to move forward, even when the next step is invisible, even when the ground feels unfamiliar, even when fear nudges us backward and our doubts threaten to anchor us in place. Love moves quietly. It does not always announce its presence. Sometimes we only notice it in retrospect, when we look back and see how it has carried us through moments we thought we would not survive. When we feel lost, love can appear as a hand extended, a word offered without judgment, a touch that reassures without explanation, a presence that does not demand but simply holds. And in those moments, we realize that love is not something we chase or capture. It is something that moves through us, lifts us, transforms us, whether or not we fully understand it. It is patient and enduring. It is gentle and persistent. It is a river that flows through the cracks of our confusion and nourishes the seeds of hope we didn't know we had. I have watched people in their own moments of being lost, and I have seen how love, subtle and quiet, moved them without their knowledge. Sometimes it was the smile of a stranger at the exact moment they needed it. Sometimes it was the memory of someone they cared for, giving courage and warmth in the absence of certainty. Sometimes it was the simple act of persistence, the willingness to try again, to stand again, to breathe again, even when everything inside told them to give up. And I think that's the essence of love in these moments. It is not flashy, it is not theatrical, it is not always recognized immediately, but it is powerful. It moves us when we feel incapable of moving ourselves. It whispers when the world screams. It steadies when the wind threatens to knock us off balance. It persists when all else falters. Being lost is also an opportunity to examine the heart, to confront the doubts and fears we carry, to meet ourselves in ways we might have avoided if the path were clear. Love is the companion that makes this introspection gentle rather than punishing. Love does not scold, love does not belittle, love does not demand perfection. Love is the understanding presence that reminds us that even in our brokenness, even in our confusion, even in our solitude, we are worthy of connection, worthy of hope, worthy of the journey itself. And when we allow love to move through us in these times, we begin to see the subtle signs, the gentle nudges, the hidden ways in which the universe conspires to guide us back to what matters most. Sometimes love moves us through the presence of someone else, someone whose heart resonates with ours in ways that words cannot capture. Sometimes it is in the quiet companionship of a friend who understands without speaking. Sometimes it is the echo of someone's care, remembered across distance and time. And sometimes, perhaps most profoundly, it is love's ability to move us internally, to shift our perceptions, to soften our edges, to make room for patience, empathy, and courage when the world outside is uncertain. Love moves even when we feel lost because it is not tied to the linearity of our plans or the predictability of our paths. Love moves because it is living. It moves because it is real. It moves because the heart, when open, cannot help but reach outward, even through the fog, even through the fear, even through the uncertainty. There is something sacred about the feeling of moving forward without knowing where we are going. It requires a kind of trust that is rare and precious, a trust that love, in whatever form it takes, will meet us, guide us, and shape us along the way. And when we surrender to that trust, when we allow ourselves to be guided by something gentler than reason, something wiser than logic, something deeper than fear, we begin to notice a remarkable transformation. The lost moments no longer feel heavy. The uncertain paths no longer feel empty. The silence no longer feels lonely. Every step becomes a part of a larger rhythm, a subtle choreography of the heart orchestrated by love's quiet insistence that we continue, that we grow, that we connect, that we live fully even in the absence of clarity. I have felt the ways in which love moves through patience, through endurance, through the small acts of kindness that seem almost invisible at the time. When we feel lost, we often undervalue the power of persistence, the quiet bravery of continuing despite fear, the courage of showing up again and again, even when it feels meaningless. But love recognizes these acts as profound. Love moves in them. Love grows in them, and love rewards us not with immediate clarity, not with instant answers, but with a deepening sense of purpose, a softening of fear, and an awareness that we are never truly alone on the journey, no matter how aimless it may feel. Even when we feel lost, love reminds us of the threads that connect us. Threads of memory, threads of intention, threads of shared experiences, threads of hope. These threads are delicate, sometimes invisible, sometimes fragile, but they persist. They weave us back together, bind us to others, and guide us through moments when we cannot see the way forward. And when we learn to trust those threads, when we allow ourselves to feel them, follow them, nurture them, we realize that being lost is not the absence of direction, but the presence of opportunity. An opportunity to grow, to learn, to understand, to feel more deeply, and to move more authentically through the world. Love moves us even when we feel lost because it is not dependent on certainty. It does not require maps or instructions or perfect timing. It moves because it is inherent to life itself, a force that persists through difficulty, doubt, and confusion. And when we accept that love is always moving through us, even when we cannot see the path, we gain a remarkable freedom, a freedom to be imperfect, a freedom to stumble, a freedom to explore the unknown, a freedom to trust that even in our most disoriented moments, we are being guided toward connection, toward truth, toward beauty, toward what we are meant to find. Being lost has taught me that love moves in ways that are sometimes mysterious, sometimes subtle, sometimes ineffable. It is not always tied to a person, though it often manifests through others. It is not always obvious, though it is always present. It is a force that persists, quietly, steadily, gently, shaping the world, shaping hearts, shaping the journey, even when we cannot recognize it, even when we feel adrift, even when we feel alone. And the more we allow ourselves to feel this, the more we allow ourselves to be moved, the more we discover that the experience of being lost is not a failure but a profound part of life, a necessary part of love, a teacher that prepares us for deeper connection, greater understanding, and more authentic living. Love moves us even when we feel lost, and in that movement, we find ourselves not necessarily at a clear destination, but in a deeper, more resonant place of presence, awareness, and connection. It teaches us to trust, to persist, to hope, to grow, and to open. It reminds us that the heart knows its own direction, even when the mind cannot discern the path. It demonstrates that the journey itself is sacred, that each step, however uncertain, is meaningful, that each moment of doubt contains the seed of clarity, and that even in the darkness, love quietly, persistently moves us forward,